Okay, let's look at some of the tools which I used. So it's the tool zone. So there are actually three tools you need when you're working on your BMW to do jacking, taking your wheels off, right? First and foremost, a breaker bar, right? This is a breaker bar, torque wrench. They're not interchangeable. These are hitting stickers, and these can be hitting stickers. I didn't say that. I didn't tell you they were hitting stickers. Don't hit anyone. If you do, don't say I did it. A torque wrench, a breaker bar, is what it says it's supposed to be. It breaks. So if you've got a bolt, it's not a very good idea, but if you've got a bolt and you're trying to undo it, right? So you get your ratchet and you're trying to undo it with your ratchet. If you can't undo it with a ratchet, right? For God's sake, don't get your torque wrench out. I'll tell you why you don't use it as a breaker bar. So you get this on there, okay? You put it on there and you stamp on this to break. This is tightening it, but for example, from there, right? So you get it in and you pull this. This has got a lot of leverage. The thicker, the better. But this works fine for mine. So you need a breaker bar to break the bolts. If you have an impact driver set to reverse, that will work, that's fine. But you need a good impact driver depending on how tight someone is done. You should torque your wheels up to a certain torque, so they're not too tight and not too loose. Too tight is not good. People chat a lot of shit on forums, right? There are a lot of armchair mechanics. There is a torque rating for a reason, okay? Also, do not, if these are your wheel nuts, do not put any kind of crap on there, any grease, because what happens is when you grease up nuts, it increases the torque. Let me kind of explain that. Put it in a way that I can make you understand. Okay, let's just say, for example, if you look at a set of wheel nuts. Actually, let's get some wheel nuts. I've got some wheel nuts now. Okay, here's an example of some wheel nuts. Okay, so you have your rotor. You put this in and zip, 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 zip. Right. If you tighten this too much, in other words, these guys with these guns, and they don't torque them up, they over torque them, right? Which is not good in any way, right? And there's, I don't really want to go because there's a whole story behind it, but trust me, don't over torque them, right? It also means that manufacturers usually set a torque so that with the tools in the car, you should be able to open them, right? You know, you put the cross brace, wheel brace, and you should be able to stand and stamp on it. I've had stuff where people have wrenched the motherfuck out of these shit, and then you can't undo them, right? And you're going to damage something, you're going to break something, right? So don't overdo them, right? Insist when you're talking to your guy to torque them by hand. They could do the zip zip, but do it as a less and then torque it up by hand, right? Now, when you're using a torque stick or torque wrench, it gets to a point and then it clicks, right? So that's done, right? Let's just say this is 100 foot-pounds of torque, right? When you grease these up and then you tighten, what happens is instead of stopping at the 100, let's say, foot-pounds of torque, this has affected it, and it will now click. It will, even though your torque wrench says 100, it won't click at 100. It will keep on going and maybe stop at 110 or 115, right? So that's why you don't need to grease these. Clean and then put them in dry. Don't grease these, for God's sake. Otherwise, you will trash these, you will trash your hub, and you will be in a world of shit. This has happened to me, right? So don't do that. So when you have morons who've over tightened, when you can't undo them properly, you need a breaker bar. Also, another thing that happens is these can rust. So what happens is when you actually take them in and out, you're supposed to clean these, okay? And clean the inside, right? And you'll be good, right? You're supposed to do this twice a year. This is why they rust. People don't remove these, so they rust. So, breaker bar. Use a breaker bar to break it. This is what this is for. You can use this also to tighten, but then you don't know how much you'll tighten it by, okay? So be careful. Undo this. Now, next tool you will need is this, right? Torque wrench. Right, now, what you do is at a torque wrench, you set your torque on here. You look at the spec, it says you do your wheel lug nuts up at 103, the 2 series is 103 foot-pounds of torque, right? You set this up, and when you tighten it like this, right, eventually it will click, and it won't tighten anymore, so you know you've done it right. So, people go, but Jay, this has a reverse facility. Yes. But you morons don't understand. That's not what it's meant for. Well, not you. I mean, you know what you're talking about. The other guy, the other moron that doesn't know what he's doing. The reverse on this is not for loosening. Okay, we all know when we tighten things, right? We tighten like this, right? Clockwise. It's always clockwise, right? So this is why when you tighten with this, you're doing it clockwise, right? So, did you know you can get left-handed threads? So, what happens is, to tighten a left-handed thread, you have to go counterclockwise, right? Do you know where you use them? Right, so what you do is, this is the tightening, anti-clockwise. So, this is where this comes in. You turn it to anti-clockwise and you're tightening it, right? Don't use this to loosen. It's not meant for loosening, it's only meant for tightening. You will break this, it's calibrated. There is a spring in here somewhere, that's how it works. These are expensive and it's calibrated for a certain amount of torque. If you use this as a breaker bar or a hitting stick, right, you will break this. If you see here, I'll show you here in a second. I store mine in a place, I do not drop this, do not throw this. This is a precision instrument. So let me show you. Let me show you. I have my box here and it gets put away. It gets put away. And if you see over here, if you see over, oh, you can't see, it's behind the door. But I've got, actually I can show you kind of an example. Can you see here? See this sponge? I have something similar for my other tools where I've got another breaker, another torque wrench. I don't know if I've got another one. They basically stay in boxes, right? Precision kit, don't mess around with it. What else do we need? I did a review on the jack, that's one thing. Okay, next tool you're going to need is a jack stand, right? There are multiple jack stands. You should not get under a car without a jack stand. In the future, Back to the Future video, you're going to see me working on a car. Now, in a way, it's okay if you're removing a wheel, putting a new wheel on, you're not underneath the car. Okay, it's, you know, disclaimer, right? You should really get this under a jacking point and then make sure it's okay. The problem I'm going to have, this is fine on other cars, but on the BMW, doesn't work. you need to have the flat ones, right? There's another video coming up for those, but you need, so that's what that's for. And on the BMW, there are very few places you can use that. This is mainly for other cars that I've had, so I need those proper jack stands. This is another video we'll take you through. So you need proper jack stands, which I didn't use in this video, but you'll see me talking about that. Jack stands. I also, because I had I've got an issue with my knees. This actually started irritating me actually. So I have these knee thingies. Okay, you put them on your knee, you clip them here, like you go clip like this. Oops. Okay, they go in there like your knee here, boom, boom, boom. So you can kneel down. Okay, this is okay. I would actually prefer this one is Milwaukee one, and this is okay. It's quite comfortable, but I don't really like the hard one. I really prefer the softer one. It's a little bit more give, and this was kind of irritating me after a while. This was hurting me at the back. But I found using parts of these rubber things work better. Okay, so what else do I need to tell you? I think that's it. So next video you're going to see is me taking the wheel off, checking the brakes, and doing everything else on there. So as I said, the other video I had, I don't know what happened to it. I think it got deleted, so I had to redo it, which is not bad because I managed to explain it to you a bit better. Okay, so don't move it off.